Our attitude is tremendously important to our success. Do you realize that? I'm talking to the choir, right? Our attitude is important. No question, no doubt about that. It's terribly important. Abraham Lincoln said that he believed that most people are about as happy as they make up their minds to be. You believe that? If that's true, and I believe that it is, you and I see people every day who apparently have never made up their minds to be happy. Now, if it's not pre-planned, but if, as Abraham Lincoln says, most people are about as happy as they make up their minds to be, then apparently our attitude is a matter of choice. We can decide whether we're going to have the right attitude or not. Someone has said, attitude is contagious. Of course, the corollary to that is lots of folks don't have one worth catching. Our attitude is contagious. It's contagious to our coworkers. It's contagious to our clients. It's contagious to our families. It's contagious to everyone we come in contact with. Attitude is tremendously important. Let me show you how important attitude can be. Suppose that we have someone in here, probably not, but just suppose we have someone in here that recently has experienced a bad case of stinking thinking. Again, probably not anyone in here. Let me ask you something. How did that work out for you? Didn't work out very well at all, did it? A good attitude by far is better than a bad attitude. A positive attitude is by far better than a negative attitude. How we look at the past, things that are over, they're finished, and there's not anything you or I or anyone else can do to change that for the present, immeasurably affects our attitude. How we look at the present sometimes affects our attitude. Think with me about how we look at ourselves. How do you feel about yourself? How you look? What you do? How do you feel about that? I do business with the Broadway Bank, which is right across from my barber shop. It's a wonderful little boutique bank. And there was a young lady that worked in there, a beautiful blonde. Not only an attractive lady, but she dispelled the dumb blonde idea, which I think is kind of sad that we've latched onto that. But she was a very bright, very beautiful young lady. I went in there one day, and this young lady had become a decided redhead. Now, you know what a decided redhead is, right? That means she just decided that night, apparently, to be a redhead. And when I walked in, I was taken back a little bit, but my mama didn't raise no fool. I tried not to let on that I was shocked. And she was still a beautiful lady, you understand. But after I had chatted with her for a minute and taken care of my banking business, I went back to the shop and I thought, wow, now there's a Barber-osophy in that. And it's this. And that is, if this beautiful young lady had something about her appearance that she didn't like, do you think that the average person might have something about theirs with which they're not content? Not only our past and our present affect our attitude, but our future, how we look at the future. You know, it's an interesting thing about a 50-year-old barbershop. We have third and sometimes fourth generation customers. We have guys that came in to get their first haircut at JB's Barbershop that these fellas now are grandpas. Can you believe that? Got their first haircut there and they're grandfathers now. And it's interesting to watch these young people progress through life. I've noticed that when the children come in, after they settle in after their first haircut, then they play with the toys and they have just a grand time, and the hokey pokey's about the essence of it at that point. But then as they get to be teenagers, things tend to change just a little bit. Because, you know, you're not supposed to be happy as a teenager. You know, only people that don't know anything are happy. You know, once you get older and more mature and you learn about life, then just naturally mature people are unhappy. That's just all there is to it. So teenagers start maturing and they realize to be mature they have to be miserable. But they're going to be happy, you understand. The teenage boy, he's going to be happy when he graduates. So he walks across the stage and he's happy for just a few hours while he's celebrating with his friends. And then he realizes, well, he's not really happy yet. He'll be happy when he goes off to college. So he goes off to college. And after a couple of weeks, he calls home. He's not happy. But Daddy gets on the phone, and they've made that commitment, and Dad talks him into staying in there. In fact, he does a good sales speech on him. He stays in and gets his Ph.D. But then he discovers he's not real happy because he learns what a lot of folks have learned, and that is that there's a big difference between a Ph.D. and a J.O.B. So now when he gets the ideal J.O.B., he's going to be happy. Well, he gets the ideal J.O.B., and he's happy for a little while, but then he discovers something's missing. Guess what's missing? He hasn't found the right young lady yet. But he's a-looking, and she's a-looking. And they find each other, and they are in wedded bliss till the honeymoon's over. And the bills come in. But all that's about to be solved because now they need children. That'll complete the equation, right? Whew, boy, that wasn't what they expected. But if we never get the kids grown and through college and it's just you and me and the bills are all paid and then we can travel, then we'll be happy. I want to tell you, for 10 years or more, one of my clients has been Princess Cruises. And I've often thought that it's a terrible thing to be old and rich and miserable and 1,000 miles from home. I've seen more unhappy people on cruise ships in the lap of luxury than any place I know of. I've often thought it'd be a lot cheaper and a whole lot more convenient just to stay home and fuss at each other. But you see, that's not the problem. The problem is not where they are, and the problem is not who they're with. Well, yes, it is. Because you see, wherever we go, there we are. And the person who looks at happiness from a someday I'll perspective will never, ever find it. Dr. Maxwell Maltz, who wrote the landmark book called Psycho-Cybernetics, said if we're ever going to be happy, we'll never be happy because of, we'll always be happy, period. And he said the reason for that is that once the mind goes into the mode of conditional happiness, then once that condition is met, the mind being so conditioned goes into action to set up the next condition. And it's an endless, futile process.